Yo, you probably don't know about the Krebs cycle. So let me teach you a thing or two. Yeah. Yo. Okay, let's go. Yeah. Yeah, some call it citric cycle or Krebs, a complex steps, and at the end 1 ATP, 1 FAD, and you can't forget about the 3 NADs. It's a series of redox reactions in the mitochondrial matrix is where it happens.
Step 1. The formation of citrate, where acetyl-CoA binds oxaloacetate. They both dehydrate, forming citric acid, a 6-carbon chain that we see every day, found in orange juice, limes, and lemon juice, releasing a CoA that is later reused.
Step 2 is enzyme isomerase will rearrange citrate, forming a molecule referred to as isocitrate, a 2-step process where hydroxyl is replaced from carbon 3 to carbon 4. But wait, there's more that you really can't ignore.
Step 3. Free energy is what we need. Isocitrates oxidize, releasing carbon dioxide, leaving behind 2 electrons that reduce NAD+ to NADH that will go on for decades, creating alpha-ketoglutarate. Some might say dehydrogenase associated to be made.
Yo, some call it citric cycle or Krebs, 8 complex steps, and in the end 1 ATP, 1 FAD, and you can't forget about the 3 NADs, a series of redox reactions in the mitochondrial matrix is where it happens. And in the end 1 ATP, 1 FAD, and you can't forget about the 3 NADs, a series of redox reactions in the mitochondrial matrix is where it happens.
In step 4, alpha-ketoglutarate is oxidized into succinyl-CoA. The remaining 4-carbon molecule takes a coenzyme A, forming the unstable compound named succinyl-CoA. When carbon is removed and release the CO2, an NAD is reduced and we produce a hydrogen.
Step 5. The unstable high-energy molecule succinyl-CoA gets cleaved to release its CoA by binding a phosphate that the GDP uses to make GDP, causing ADP to become ATP, which your body needs for energy, used when you play. And in the 5th step, the product is succinate.
Step 6 is where succinate is oxidized, forming fumarate, and the enzyme dehydrogenase creates 2 electrons and 2 protons. They are lost, but it comes at a cost, reducing FAD to FADH2, and that's what we want, which occurs in the inner membrane of the mitochondrion.
Yo, some call it citric cycle or Krebs, 8 complex steps, and in the end 1 ATP, 1 FAD, and you can't forget about the 3 NADs, a series of redox reactions in the mitochondrial matrix is where it happens. And in the end 1 ATP, 1 FAD, and you can't forget about the 3 NADs, a series of redox reactions in the mitochondrial matrix is where it happens.
Fumarate requires H2O to hydrate. A 4-carbon chain is formed called malate, rearranging hydrogen and oxygen back to the substrate, a reaction all catalyzed by the enzyme fumarase.
The last step, malate, is oxidized to oxaloacetate. NAD is reduced to NADH plus H. Oxaloacetate's fate is to react with acetyl-CoA and re-enter the TCA.
Call it citric cycle or Krebs, 8 complex steps, and at the end 1 ATP, 1 FAD, and you can't forget about the 3 NADs, a series of redox reactions in the mitochondrial matrix is where it happens. Call it citric cycle or Krebs, 8 complex steps, and at the end 1 ATP, 1 FAD, and you can't forget about the 3 NADs, a series of redox reactions in the mitochondrial matrix is where it happens.
So here I go to study lots. Cells fail me not. This may be the only glucose from dinner that I got.